Okay. Mine is about capitalizing on conflict, basically based on change. Strategies and practices turning conflict into synergy in organizations. Because making teamwork effort, it's better than adding non-teamwork that would cause conflict, and that wouldn't be good. It's not going.
It's all right. Oh, it's still
I didn't
installed.
break it.
No, you didn't. It's still installed. You'll have to just use the key for a second. It'll be done probably about a minute.
Should I just do it right here?
Yeah, you're okay for the first minute. Then you can move.
Okay. I saw this quote and it kind of reminded me of like when people become too comfortable doing what they're trying to do, they don't really want to change into a new strategy, and sometimes that causes a lot of conflict because they're not comfortable with the change.
Kendra, can you just go back to that? I'm sorry, that was a really good proverb. Did you find that, or was that in the article?
Yeah, it was an article.
This is a great quote here, because typically, if someone comes to you and says, we're not going to do that anymore, we're going to do this, what do you feel? It's Kevin, right? When we started doing the arm wrestle, exactly. I mean, he was just instantly like, well, bring it on. We have this natural aversion to people, you know, especially coming out of the military, maybe, hey, I got told what to do for 20 years or whatever. You're not telling me what to do anymore, right? We just have that concept that happens. And so if someone were to come to you, and Mr. Ross actually taught me this, and I always ask people, are you open to feedback? It kind of opens the door, because if you give them something and they're not ready for it, guess what? Yes, screw you. You know, like, come on, let's do this, let's fight. So we need to realize that a lot of times people are stuck in this paradigm right here, that they're only going to change things. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. This is a theory that I read in the article that was based in research. That theory is reflected in the notion that change happens when people in various roles engage in the process that converts the current status to something different. And these are the roles that would change the effort effectively, such as the change driver, the person who identifies the change.
This should probably be right now if you want to use it now.
The sponsor, he's responsible for understanding the need for the change, which actions to take, who to have take the position, and the implementers are the ones responsible for making the change happen. They typically work for the change driver. The targets are the employees that are expected to change. They're the ones that go through the conflict if they're not happy with the change.
Can we talk about the rules for another second?
Sure.
Do you mind? We've all been part of these roles, right? We've all been at least a target. Sounds like Mr. Tuck would like to be the change driver, right? He's going to implement it. Do you mind standing over there so we have you on video too while we're doing it? So what do you think it takes to be a sponsor?
You have to have a well-rounded knowledge about what you're trying to make your targets know. You have to have that, like she said, the understanding for the change.
Mm-hmm. So you have to be the one that can not just see the need, but figure out how to implement the need.
And then,
You have to come up with a strategy on, okay, now the change driver, the CEO, says we need to cut costs by 10%. Okay, let me look at this as the CFO or something like that and be the sponsor of how are we going to do that in this organization? What are the things that we can do to cut costs? Maybe we aren't going to cut costs. Maybe we're going to raise revenue. Maybe we're going to raise profits. what's the strategy, and then you have implementers, the people below, the mid-level managers that you go out and say, this is what you're all gonna do, and then you get the targets, okay? So, as nice as it is to be the change driver, I think that what we have to do is kind of move up through these in an organization so that we can understand each phase. It's pretty tough when you go from target to change driver because you don't see the nitty-gritty that goes on in between if you're not ready. And if you don't take those things into account, at least in my experience, if you don't think about how the implementers are going to have to go do this and how the sponsor is going to have to take this on, you're setting up that change to fail right off the bat because you're not going to have a good strategy moving forward. So that's just, at least my experience.
Can I throw out?
Yes, please.
I think for sponsor, this reminds me of
Project
your
manager?
video, first follower.
Yeah, you know, we talked about
If you watch the first follower, that sponsor becomes the most important part of this whole change dynamic because they have to be able to answer the question why. When change happens, everybody says why. And many times the change driver sees that there's a need, but they may not be able to answer that question. Somebody has to come in and say, here's the why for where we're going. So I see the sponsor as the one that actually buys into the why and begins to explain it and call the other people. Here's why. Follow me. We'll do this.
it's great.
Capitalizing on conflict, because change could be a big issue. If you're not comfortable, you start to cause conflict, and it basically, okay, like this one. Conflict management issues arise when employees are not willing to get along with, and they use resistance to take the form of challenges to management. These are 8 phases people go through in reaching acceptance. I think that's almost in everything, because some people, they don't want to go through something different. Sometimes even facing denial won't be easy. You kind of get stuck on it. Okay, like stability. That's the status quo that existed prior to the change. Immobilization. It's a reaction that you're in shock and sometimes disoriented, not knowing how to do something or how to react. Denial. You don't want to face it. Like, you just keep on ignoring it, hoping that it'll go away. And then anger. Sometimes people just lose it. They try to prevent the change, and sometimes people just quit their jobs. Like bargaining, when that person starts to accept it, but then they think of ways to try to avoid the impact on the new change. And then depression. It's the reaction to a negative change. And then what was the number 7?
I don't have the article from me, but it's not Tesniz. It's good.
Well, that's how it's spelled in the article.
Oh, was it?
Is that an acronym?
Here, I can pull up the article.
And that's when they start to work with the new change. They're trying training or whatnot.
Which reading are you on?
7.
No, what was the article? The author?
Blackwood.
Hackert?
Oh, yeah. Okay, and then
Testing. It's the period during which targeters learn to work with the new change.
Well, it said it like that in the article.
Yeah.
Okay, and then acceptance, when it starts to become reality that, hey, this is our new change and I'm gonna work this way.
So is it spelled like that, or is it?
No, it's testing. It's TESTING. But interestingly enough, after you go through these phases, acceptance turns into what?
The new status quo.
Which is stability. Okay, so it's a cycle. So people, change happens, And it's interesting because people will come back to the point where they're like, oh, this is how we do it now. You know, and it just becomes, even if you did it differently. So for perfect example here, when I first started teaching, we did hourly pay for instructors. Then we went to unit pay, and everybody was grumbling that we went to unit pay, which is you just get paid one thing for a class. And then we went back to hourly pay. Everybody's like, wait, I like unit pay. The same people that are complaining about going from hourly to unit pay, we're not complaining about going from unit pay to hourly pay. It was just like, it's funny because they become the status quo. And you're gonna go through these phases guaranteed with every kind of transition. Because if you come up with something and everybody agrees that it's a great thing to do, something's weird. Like, it was either really bad to start or you're not seeing something, because there will be people based upon ego, based upon just stability of like, don't rock my boat. Has everybody seen the movie, or has anybody seen the movie Office Space? Yeah. And the guy, when he's complaining about his red stapler, you got my red stapler, I want my red stapler. He wants that stapler because it was on his desk, so it's his stapler. And yet the boss keeps coming by and taking the red stapler because he wants that red stapler and he thought the guy stole from him. That's just like one little instance that someone can't let go of, and yet it's so perfectly indicative of what happens in an organization of everything. It's a stapler. Like, who cares? That meant a lot to that guy. And it meant a lot to the manager to make sure that guy didn't have that stapler. And you know, it was kind of humorous in the video, but it is a perfect example of, you know, that guy gets immobilized, like you keep moving him to different places and he keeps going still in the stapler. You know, and he comes back and then he's in denial. I haven't gotten a paycheck in a month. What's happening? You know, he's just denying the fact that he knows they're trying to fire him, but he doesn't want to think about it and stuff like that. And gets angry. I'm going to burn the building down. You know, like, and all this kind of stuff. And bargains with him. You better not put me again or I'll burn the building down. You know, he's going through all these phases. And it's a funny movie because I feel like it shows so much of what happens in change in a humorous manner, you know, and it's just so indicative of what happens. So anyway, I apologize for interrupting, but continue.
A manager's best way is to try to avoid minimizing the resistance that someone would go through dealing with the change. Like, involvement with the change. It makes it less of a likely chance that there would be conflict. The employee feels like they're involved with the change, and more likely they'll have a positive attitude when they're facing the change, that a new method and how they're working, they'll most likely go along with it and not resist. These are some of the ways that these are the employees are being involved in planning the change. The supervisor will inform the
really quick, Kendra. I don't mean to interrupt, but you jumped over one little thing here that I think is really important in this article, which is don't surprise employees. Okay, that's kind of what you were saying in that last one, but I think it comes down to a really simple version. You don't want to be like, today they show up and you're like, hey, we're all moving desks. I mean, even a simple, look at everybody in this classroom. You're sitting in the exact same location that you've sat in since day one. And if you came in, I said, Andrew, you can't sit there. Yeah, instantly. You're just going, what do you mean? This is where I sit. Come on, Andrea, I just want you up front today. No, and you see, little things like that, like, does that really matter? Yeah. Well, it matters to you. To me as an instructor, I'm like, come on, just move desks. It's not, but you're like, hey, I feel comfortable. I want to be by the door. You know, whatever it is, whatever your reasons are that you have. But we're all literally sitting in the exact same seat we've sat in the entire time. How resistant to change are we even in a classroom? And then you put money and position and all these things into it, and people just get entrenched. So surprises are great for birthdays. They're great for anniversaries. They're typically not good in the workplace. And how many times do they do these huge reorganizations? Toyota, we were just talking about Toyota. Toyota is moving their main facility in California to Plano, Texas. It was decided in a top secret meeting. They had studied it for a couple of years, and it got leaked on Sunday morning, and they had a huge company-wide meeting for Monday. Okay? and it got leaked on Sunday and ran in the Los Angeles Times. And so people were like, wait, they're moving Toyota? All the employees found out, and it was a huge deal. And in fact, the first thing that company said when they got their employees together on Monday was, we are so sorry. We thought we had a lid on this. We wanted you to know first before anybody else found out. We don't know how it got out. Because they didn't want to surprise everybody. And instead of them having to be able to present the case and give them information, it was just like, they're going there to, cut costs and be able to be in Texas. And everybody's like, like everybody was freaking out. And so that was a huge issue. And actually Toyota went in saying, we don't want anybody to quit. We'll pay for you to move there. We'll help you buy a house. We want to keep everybody's, pay the same. They were trying to go through all these things, trying to keep everybody happy, but nobody knew that on Sunday. So everybody came in the next day very upset, very angry, ready to just battle with the CEO and the whole Vice President of American Operations. When in reality, they were trying to do everything right. It just was about surprising people. So anyway, keep going.
Okay. Ensure effective supervisors, supportive relationships. To be an effective supervisor, you have to be able to understand, accept, and be honest about the role in each change and what that person's responsibility for the change and what they need to initiate. Supervisors that communicate is a major factor determining either there'll be conflict or not. Just like Mr. Greer said, no one likes to be surprised that you have to do something brand new and you're used to doing what you are comfortable or what you're comfortable doing. Communicating changes effectively. The best way is communication. Management should always explain any new requirements in detail so that the employees understand and know how to comply. Second, they should sell the change. The management and the organization's need for the change and why that plan is the best option for the change and why that was the main decision.
Before you click it, does anybody watch The Office, or did you watch The Office ever with Michael Scott? No, you never saw it? Oh, I'm gonna have to show you a couple. Like, they're talking about layoffs, and they're gonna close the branch potentially, and he doesn't know what's gonna happen, but he thinks it might be his branch. And he comes out, he's gonna tell everybody, hey, there might be something happening. He comes out, puts his head down, and kind of looks. People, we are screwed. It's just like the way he says it is like, what? It's like demoralizes the entire office instantly. We are being closed down. It's like he doesn't know what's going on, but the way it's communicated is just horrible. And one guy's like, I can't be happier. I'm gonna take my pension and go. And then they don't get closed. The guy's like, he's crying because he thought he's gonna retire early and all stuff. But it's just funny to see just how you bring the message to, and that's what managers are responsible for, is that it's not your job to come out and be like, all right, listen, this is a horrible policy, but I gotta read it to you anyway. Right off the bat, you've jaded it, okay? Right off the bat, you've made it so that change is not, we are supposed to move forward with things and implement change if you're a mid-level manager in a positive light. So figure out how you communicate well with your team. Figure out how to get them involved in that change. That's part of the responsibility. Go ahead.
Can I just add to that? I think from mid-level down, the whole key is, what's in this for me? I buy into change if you can explain to me what the value of the outcome is to me. And when you on your slides talked about communication and management is responsible for that, I've seen when management disappears, change will not happen. It will go back to what it was. So this communication has to be almost firsthand. I was brought in to do consulting with Burlington Northern Railroad and Santa Fe Railroad. It's been maybe 15 years ago. The two railroads merged together. They were two completely different railroads, having different paths, different leadership. David Dealey stepped in, became the vice president to merge them together. Everybody hated this guy. He said, what do I do? They hate me, and we've got to make some changes. And I said, you go out and you be seen by everybody. You go to the people. You get them to understand what the value is to them and how this is going to be better. But you can't do it by writing letters. You got to go and be with them, and you got to stay with them. I mean, we put together a year process where he went to all the different installations, even Small places like Havre, Montana, he went to talk to those people, so they saw him communicate the whys, the whens, the whats. He did this for a year. BNSF right now is it's a major railroad. It really came together, but at the time, nobody wanted to follow David Dealey into this. It was a terrible thing. So they've got to be they've got to be there.
There's even Angela Ahrens, who's got Apple Retail. I told you there's going to be a lot of Apple, but she's the CEO of Burberry, very successful woman. Came in, took over Apple Retail, highly successful group, and she came in and said she didn't even say anything prior to 6 months, but she visited every store and got to know everybody. And now when she asks the group to do something, she does a weekly video. She comes on, she says, "Hey, team, this is what we're gonna do this week. I need you to do this." They're all thinking about that interaction. She went and tried to meet every single retail employee so that they felt connected to the person that was gonna be giving them the marching orders. Now, it wasn't like it was failing. She didn't have to go do any radical changes right off the bat, but she was saying in order for her to be effective, she felt like she had to be connected with those groups. And then what happens is as new employees come on, what do they hear? Angela's awesome. She came in, she treated us like people, she was here all day, she didn't yell at anybody, she was so proud of the way they were running the store, because they're all running fantastic, they're making tons of money, every one of them. And so I totally agree that communication being seen, there's a reason I stand at the top of the stairs a lot of times and just saying hi to everybody. It's I want the students to know that I care. I want the students to know that if we're doing something, they don't think, oh, Greer's just doing it, he's just doing it. But it's important, and I don't think that you can emphasize how important that is. I mean, it's vital to people to know who their leaders are and have confidence in their decisions.
And that's it.
Can I just go over one more thing? You can go ahead and stand up there and talk. You can tell us about it.
Well, I had I had some key points, just like you're saying.
Sure. Talk to us about it.
Like on, what was it? Like
I totally forgot about breaks.
with,
Sorry, but we'll get one after this. Sorry.
communicating with your employees, like you said, you wouldn't want to surprise them. Like birthdays would be okay, but other than that, it's not a good idea to surprise them. And you should give your employees a voice. That means the opportunity to voice their opinion. If they don't like the change, but they're still trying to participate, then at least they're trying and trying to comply with the new change. Any questions?
Actually, I just want to cover one thing that you skipped over, and it's the causes of resistance. And I think that's important. And so the author lays out a few causes. First is a substantive disagreement. They philosophically disagree with what you're doing for some reason. Okay? So that's one reason. Another one is misunderstanding the facts. And I will tell you that is very often the case. They think they have the whole picture, but they don't see everything because of where they are. They might be in the trees and not above the forest. And so because they're looking at a couple branches, they don't see that this river that's going through this forest is about to, cause some damage. And they're like, no, my tree's fine. They don't see what's happening from above. So misunderstanding everything that's going on is a big one. That leads to different perspectives. So they might have look, if you just leave me alone, I will get my stuff done. And you're trying to say, but I can't leave you alone because you're about to get mowed down by deforestation. You're like, we have somebody coming through and wiping out the forest. If you don't change, we're all dead, and you're going to be part of that. Inertia is another reason that maybe there's just something moving already in a direction, and it's so hard to sway that. We talked about centers of gravity yesterday, and that's I was just talking to Miss Maraska about our Microsoft Office certification program, and she was like, oh, it's so great. I mean, you just brought that up and all of a sudden it happened. I'm like, that took 2 years. That was me pushing and beating on everybody I could to say, look, this is a worthwhile thing, we should totally be doing it. And well, we need to charge students $120 each. No, we should make it $10. We wanted to be successful. The more people, it was just this push, and now it's here, and everyone's like, yay, we got Microsoft Office. And it's like, okay, that change happened. No, that took so much effort to put in place just because the inertia coming back against it. Loss of control. That's another reason. Oh, it's gonna be. I'm not gonna have the ability to do that anymore. Like that, they're taking that away from me. Why would they take that away from me? I'm in charge of that. You know, we feel like we have power over this, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And so a lot of people validate what they get paid or the position they have based upon who they can control. And finally is an indictment of the past. So people resist change because they believe it's an indictment of what they have believed or done in the past. Like, I can't believe you're making me change that. What are you saying? I did this all wrong? Are you saying that what I've done was never right? And that's not necessarily the case. It's we just need to change. And so they take it very personally. Like, I can't believe Andrea screwed this up. How could they say that? So, great article. Thank you, Kendra. Bravo. Bravo. And